has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2.
Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York. Derek Jeter with one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop.
On the right sideline, Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running Zephyr off the front rim and in.
What a save by Lundqvist.
What up, New York sports-loving fans, and welcome to a new edition of Empire State Sports Talk for a Monday, September 11th edition. I am Jason Burgos, and tonight I will have a guest co-host with me. Unfortunately, my usual co-host, Jose Maldonado, Baby Blue, he is based out of Florida, unfortunately, and is dealing with the Hurricane Irma fiasco going on, so positive vibes out to Baby Blue. But my co-host tonight is a friend of mine and is one of the best MMA prospects in the Northeast. So we will get into some good UFC talk a little later in the edition of this show. And he has been a multi-promotion amateur champion and is a real deal New Yorker, baby. That is my man, Luis Gonzalez. Luis, what is up?
Thank you, Jason. That was quite an entrance. I appreciate that. Everything's good, man. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on and getting some in-depth UFC talk a little later in the show. But first, since the show we're recording, as always on a Sunday night for a Monday edition. So, but we're still going to be published and produced on September 11th. It's a day that left lasting memories on all Americans, but especially for us New Yorkers, like us. But where were you that day on September 11th? What are your memories from that pretty horrible and historic day in New York and American history?
I remember being in the cafeteria and just seeing all my teachers. Some people were crying. Some teachers were just kind of pulling kids from the classroom. A lot of us weren't too sure what was going on. My father came to pick up me and one of my best friends, and there was just traffic was on a standstill heading down in the Bronx and just not understanding what's going on. And then later on in the day, watching it on TV, it was just like, is this a movie? No, this is the news.
Yeah.
This is really happening right now. So it was a bit of a shock. Never really witnessed anything like that before, especially in home, only in movies, not in real life. So
yeah, I remember. Well, I'm a little older than you, so I was out of school. I was in between deciding if I wanted to go to school and go to college or go to work. And I'm sleeping. It's 10 already, 10, 11 o'clock, and my phone keeps ringing. I'm like, what? And then I know it's my mom calling. I'm like, what? What do you want? I'm trying to sleep. That classic teenage a-hole attitude. But I finally pick up. She tells me what happened. I put on TV and to see the buildings, with the smoke coming out and everything. And then you start seeing replays of the tower, the planes going to the towers, just crazy, surreal, and just the days following it that'll never be matched again, unfortunately, in terms of the positivity and everyone caring about each other, at least for a few days, which is always rare in a city like New York where so many people have a bad attitude. And it was just, at least it helped with the coping of dealing with it, because everybody was so respectful and nice and pleasant. Everybody was just happy to be around each other and alive. So it was such a surreal, weird time.
yeah, it was a feeling of shock throughout the entire city, which is, like you said, New York being so big, to have an entire city just kind of go quiet for a few days. You really didn't hear much fighting. Everyone was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Mhm.
Even in school, it was just weird when we finally got back into it.
Yeah.
There were still so many questions, no answers, just a lot of confusion, sadness. People were just sad. How did this happen? So yeah, that day, you can still, that feeling of just shock
Mm-hmm.
still comes to mind just when you think about 9/11.
Yeah, I mean it's so far, so it seems forever ago, but it's not hard to be back in that moment of what happened that day. But moving on to what we're here to talk about, a little sports now. We're, as we like I mentioned before, it's a Sunday, so we're in progress on the Giants and Cowboys game, and currently it's still 16-3 in the fourth quarter. It's looking like it's not going to go good for the Giants. I mean, unfortunately, what was a problem all of last year and what was a problem again in the preseason continues to be a problem in the new season with this Giants offensive line not looking good. In tonight's game, Eli's getting limited time. Unbelievable. In the first half, they had 2 first downs and 32 total passing yards. Now, fortunately, in the first drive of the second half, they were able to, pretty much double all of that and at least get a field goal. But, I mean, this line's problematic. They're not really running, and then they're having the defense out there playing so much in a hot field on a hot night. It's still a lot of time, but, now going into a second year of an issue, it's something serious to work about for a team a lot of people thought might be a contender this year.
Yeah, and you were looking at the stat that Eli has started 200 games.
Yeah.
And seeing that offensive line, you have to wonder, like, is he going to make it through the season? Like, he's constantly getting hit and rushed and pressured, and he's proven to be durable, but there's only so much of a beating you can take.
Yeah, and he's not a young man. I think he's 36, 37. I mean, he's he's taken a lot of beatings. So yeah, that's a great point. Does this kind of a line, and it's it's not even average. It's like below average play for this level, cause a man who's been an Iron Man and for this entire franchise and one of the final ones in the league to really finally miss a game. I mean, unless they, the one thing is we had on. Matt Stopsky as a guest, appearance a couple of weeks ago talking about the team, and we talked about that they got Ellison, the tight end from the Vikings, and they've got fullbacks stuff like that, but it's like they didn't answer the needs. They didn't go out and get the big free agent, and they made a free agent signing, but it's a guy in DJ Fluker who's like a so alignment anyway. So it's annoying. It's almost like a Knicks kind of or Mets-ish kind of decision. You have a clear weakness and you don't address it. No, you go draft a first round tight end, you go get another tight end, you get Brandon Marshall, you get all these other big names, and you don't address the line. And then you go into a season where Eli's not getting any younger. These are his last years of really taking a run at it, and you still have the same problems. And this is the kind of thing, an offensive line not being good can derail an entire season if it's not right.
Yeah, they just keep throwing money into a hole. Like you said, instead of fixing the actual problem, like, yeah, we're spending money. Yeah, but not where you need to spend it. Put somebody to protect Eli. Yeah. You have great receivers. You have to give Eli a little bit of time just to get them the ball. Just a little bit. Keep that defense off the field.
Yeah, and the fortunate thing is they run a style offense with McAdoo where it is based around short passing. It's kind of a West Coast style offense, and that's good. But he, like you just say, he can't even get a little time. And, of course, a lot of people are going to, okay, Odell's not there, but they still have more than enough talent that they should still be able to get more. I know the Cowboys' defense is better. I know they're better than past year, but they still lost people in free agency. This isn't the Steelers' defense. This isn't even the Giants' defense currently. The Giants' defense is better than theirs. And to get only 3 points when you still have Emmett Ingram, you still got Shane Vereen, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard's actually been one of the few bright spots in the game so far. And that's another bad thing. Not that Sterling Shepard is a bright spot, it's not. In the preseason, the offense only really played 2 games. The first game, they really didn't play at all. Like, Beckham has been out, Marshall was out, Eli didn't play in the first game. They played in the second, played in the third, and then the fourth game, they didn't play at all. So it's like he hasn't probably built any kind of chemistry with some of these new guys, especially like Ingram and Marshall. And when you have no Beckham, that's going to even hurt your offense even more.
Yeah, they're proven to be it's either Odell Beckham or bust at the moment. And it's like defenses are taking note. And all you have to do is put pressure on Eli because the offensive line is going to give you the hole. And they're showing it this game. Like, they're making that D-line for the Cowboys look like all-stars.
Yeah. I mean, and Collinsworth made a great point saying Odell Beckham should call his agent to tell him they want even more money because without him, they're not doing enough. And the funny thing is, we've grown up on Giants teams, even when back in the 90s and into the 2000s when the Kerry Collins team went to the Super Bowl, or even the recent teams, defense was always a key, and then they could run. They didn't necessarily have to have the best running game in the league and the top superstar running, but they could run it. And those teams that won with Eli, they had a Brandon Jacobs, they had a Ahmad Bradshaw. they had guys that were very capable, and the line was capable enough to at least get their run game good. Because the crazy thing is, and I remember this all the way back to Eli's first year. Everybody talks about, oh, he can throw the deep ball, maybe even better his brother. But the thing he's always been great at is play action pass. And if you can't run the ball, you're taking away one of his best. It's like Luis Gonzalez. Luis Gonzalez has big power, nasty power in both hands, and it's like as if his hands were both broken and he can't throw the power. Like your best asset's taken away, you're not going to be able to live up, play up to your potential.
No, of course, man. Like we stated earlier, Eli is not getting protected. They have no running game. And then even if the defense was, the defense of back in the 90s, which was shut down with Strahan and those guys, stellar, you're keeping them on the field for so long that these guys are gassing out, and it's just a matter of time. Like you're playing into the other team's strengths all the time. They really need to give them some help.
Yeah, what's crazy is, there's about 7 minutes left in the game, still 16-3. The defense is playing good despite, being worn out. They played about as much as the offense in preseason. Ezekiel Elliott's had a good game, but they've kept Dak Prescott pretty much bottled up. Ezekiel Elliott has hurt them, but not bad enough to really kill them. And they're still in the game, just a couple touchdowns away, but there's no reason to believe they're going to go get these 2 touchdowns and get themselves back in the game. And it's just, frustrating start to the season. They're going to lose probably. As a Giants fan, losing to the Cowboys is just utter torture every time. I can't stand them. And it's also, it's even more frustrating because Ezekiel Elliott, who's doing good for them, who's helping them, he shouldn't even be in this game right now. I got this stupid injunction from the NFLPA who will defend anybody at this point to keep guys.
That's the job. They got, they gotta get paid too.
Yeah, they're pretty much like the shyster lawyer or whatever who works for the cocaine dealer, and he's like, oh, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, kind of. It's like,
yeah, we got to scream appeal.
It's like, come on. He should, we lost Beckham, but they got to keep him. It's like, it's frustrating. But speaking of frustration, at least there's hope. It's a tough game. You lost to a good team. The last season's NFC East champion, so the season's far from over. But I tell you, it almost feels like it's over for the Jets at this point. The Jets living
and it's
up,
just started.
I know it just started, and it's already done, and living up to all the expectations of a season that's probably going to be disastrous. They lose earlier today. Nothing special from anybody on the Jets. They lost to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are expected to be just as terrible as them. Josh McCown, 187 yards, 2 interceptions, a whopping 56.2 passer rating. No run game. The new signing, the new trade Curse led the receivers with 7 catches, 59 yards. Ooh, booga booga. Return man Khalif Raymond fumbled twice. McCown with 6 passes defended, 5 QB hits, and 1 sack. So pretty much the Jets are going through what the Giants are going through, and they don't have a good line. But they don't at least have the weapons where the Giants have hope for going forward. The Jets have no line and no weapons.
Yeah, the Jets, I feel bad for Jets fans. They have a bad team. Even though the Patriots lost, you can kind of tell they're going to right the ship eventually. And it's like, until Brady leaves, the Jets just don't have hope to be in contention for that division. And the AFC East right now isn't exactly strong outside. It's top heavy with New England. Miami's in a little bit of flux. The Jets are always in flux. The Bills aren't doing anything exciting. So you would think the Jets have an opportunity to at least contend, and they don't.
No, they have nothing. And then just before the season started, they go and trade Trent Richardson to get Curse from Seattle. So they give up a good running back. And what a shocker. One of their best defensive tackles, Trent Richardson, who's, he's a pain in the butt, but still a good player. And LaShawn McCoy goes for 22 rushes, 110 yards, 59 yards receiving on 5 catches. He has a great game and kills them. Tyrod Taylor, is running around, extending plays a little bit because he didn't do anything spectacular. He had 224 yards throwing, 38 running, 2 touchdowns and interception. Nice solid stats, but nothing blowing your mind away. But when you're the Jets and you're already a one-armed man in an ass-kicking contest to start the season, Tyrod Taylor could rip you up and help you lose games. And I mean, I don't, me and Jose have talked about it for the last few weeks. I don't know what you have to look forward to. And thank God, and I've told him many times, thank God I'm a Mets and Giants fan, because for the majority of people being a Mets and Jets fan, pure torture right now. The Mets are terrible. At least the Mets have got a little winning streak. And then but the Jets are just, I mean, there's a lot of people, when I joke around with my friend at work, I mean, there's a lot of people in September that are going to be, man, I can't wait for some Knicks basketball. And that's saying something at this point.
I know, right? If you're hoping for the Knicks season to start, man, it must be tough to be a sports fan. Like, if that's what you're waiting for, hey, you know what? The Knicks are coming to lose 50 games.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm waiting for.
Carmelo's going to shoot 30 times and, hog the ball. Yay.
That's another team that needs to be blown up right now and just restart.
God. At least there's the whole thing of the European basketball tournaments going on right now. At least there's some like semblance of some reason to be excited, because I would be more excited if Carmelo wasn't there, because we all know what's going to happen. He's going to leave after this year and opt out. He's going to want to pad his stats and have a good year. But, Kristaps Porzingis playing for the Latvia teams, putting up really nice numbers, being one of the leaders on that team as they go further. Willie Hernan Gomez is on the Spanish team, which has been dominant in the tournament, and he's been a contributor because it's a team that has a lot of NBA stars, but he's been one of the contributors, so that says a lot. And even Mindaugas Kuzminskis off the bench, who was like a so-so player down the stretch. He's been good for his team. I believe he's playing for Lithuania, so there's reason to be excited. I mean, also, unfortunately, I guess the Knicks' first draft pick, Ntilikina, probably should have been in it, but maybe his injuries after his professional league, he isn't playing. But, I mean, there's three good young guys. Like, man, these, maybe at least two of them could be building blocks, but who knows how they're going to be, if they're going to trade this guy. So it's like, oh.
Yeah, that's a team you watch and just kind of like, okay, things are good, and it's not.
And they've just been at least Phil's gone, so that there's a reason like, okay, maybe change, bring something different. Even at least that, like, see, that's the unfortunate thing with the Jets. The Jets don't have anything to really look for. They don't have a good thing would have been like when the Giants got Eli, yeah, they were bad too. Okay, we're here to develop a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback they can trust. That Josh McCown, who barely played in preseason, already had the job won over two young quarterbacks they drafted with high picks, and that has given nothing for the Jets to look forward to other than sucking to maybe get that quarterback. At least the Knicks have, hey, they still got a star in Carmelo. He's still pretty good. Whatever. You want to go see a game in person, at least you can be entertained for the most part by him, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they have Porzingis and Hernan Gomez, who maybe are going to be building blocks with Ntilikina. And if they can freaking trade Carmelo, please, Lord, please, and maybe get some more chips from that, then you have something to look forward to. But with the Jets, my God, it's just like, there's a lot of husbands out there. They're going to make their wives really happy, I think, this football season, because they're going to be spending a lot of time with their wives when they didn't last year, because they are not going to be watching Jets games either. Not at all.
They're not going to sit through a whole game.
No, they're going to be like, honey, you want to go watch a movie, son? This game's over.
They'll have hope, and then it's just like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
That's not.
No. That's not. I mean, well, moving on from that, let's go a little bit around the league and the NFL opening week one. I mean, there was a big Patriots game that they lost. No one feels bad about that, but that was already on Thursday. Let's talk about today's game, or when you're listening to this on Monday morning, yesterday's games. Some of the surprises: the Ravens shut out the Bengals 20-0, and Andy Dalton sacked 5 times and had 4 interceptions. For a team like the Bengals, have been a good team. Dalton's a good player. Oh, I mean, this is it's still early, but oh man, that is an ass whooping to start the season.
Yeah, that's a bad loss. That's especially to start. That's not good for the confidence. But like you said, they've been a good, solid team the last couple of years. So I think they can turn it around pretty quickly.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is it's a division game, so that if there are tiebreakers or any issues, that it's going to hurt them. But even a bigger surprise that the Jacksonville Jaguars in the new Tom Coughlin as team president regime. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, Tom, he's got nothing. They got Blake Bortles, who cares? But in their opening game, Tom Coughlin surprise and beat the Texans, who a lot of people are feeling, based on the Texans, what they did last year, they could maybe be a surprise team, maybe do some damage. They got a good defense. Guys like J.J. Watt will be healthy this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they lose to the Jaguars 29-7 at home. Tom Savage and Deshaun Watson are sacked 10 times. I thought bad for the Ravens to get the Bengals and Andy Dalton 5 times. 10 times sacked in one game. Holy Lord.
I'm impressed that the Jaguars dropped 29 points on the Texans. That's that's very impressive.
And Bortles only had, I think, 184 yards or so. So it's not like they had like a big game like some of the other games we're about to go over, especially the next game. There was some big throwing stats. There was nothing special. It was just like when your defense is playing that good and you're getting a short field, you don't have to do too much. As long as you don't mess up, you will win.
Yeah. I'm still looking at that like, wait, he said the Jaguars threw 29 points on the Texans.
Yeah.
The same Texans?
Yeah.
With J.J. Watt back?
Yeah.
Those guys?
I mean, and you would think they're in Houston. This is following Harvey. There's a personal fan motivation and like that kind of bringing together unity and positivity. And man, that did nothing for the Texans. Man, they had an awful game, like a terrible gift to the people of Houston. Like, you just dealt with Harvey. Here's a terrible loss to the Jaguars. That's just mean. I mean, mean right there.
Yeah.
Now here's another big surprise. Not too surprising, but I guess it's more surprising based on the score. Is that the LA Rams beat the Colts, who have no Andrew Luck, and the recent news on Andrew Luck is I saw that he may be out to October. I mean, Andrew Luck has been beaten up for the last few years, and the fact that he has taken a little bit of a step back, he hasn't lived up to the early promise. He's still a good quarterback, a Pro Bowl level guy, but he may not be out to October. They had the likes of Scott Tolzien, and Jacoby Brissett, double who. They lose to the Rams 46-9. Those two dudes combined for 150 throwing yards. 46-9. This isn't the Patriots. This is the Rams. The Rams sucked last year.
Man, the Colts aren't going to be any better than the Rams were last year this year.
Oh, no.
Unless Andrew Luck comes back and he comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And they magically have an offensive line that can block anybody, like they're going to have a rough time. And Luck is going to – the problem with his injury is to his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he gets hit a lot. His offensive line does not do him any favors, and he's going to be put on his butt consistently. He may not finish this season. I think the team isn't good enough to contend, so why risk it? Why risk him coming back early?
Yeah, I mean, and that just shows you, like, just like getting a quarterback. I mean, quarterback's the glaring position. Everybody wants him. A cornerback and cornerbacks are important nowadays because the league's so heavy on throwing. But you got to build from the line. I mean, we talked about with the Giants, and we've seen it even with years where the Packers wasted an MVP level from Aaron Rodgers because he's rarely had a good line to protect, and that's why he gets so many rushing yards because he has to run and do things. And you need a line like the Cowboys. Look how far and how great a season they had last year with a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back, but they had a spectacular line. You don't need 3 Hall of Famers on your line. Like the Giants won 2 titles with like a couple of a Pro Bowl level guy here or there. But they worked so to get together. And if you don't have it, you have a guy like Andrew Luck who showed so much promise, like superstar. Best quarterback in the league ability early on. He's been beat up. That's probably affected his psyche that he isn't the same guy, and they still have not fixed it. This is his 5th year in the league now, and he's still not in front of a good line. Like, God, well, what a waste of talent. Like the Jets and Jets fans would have given anything to have Andrew Luck, even with an old Mangold and DeBrickashaw. He still would have did better than he's done with the Colts.
Yeah, but the Jets would have found a way to mess that up.
And what? No.
At least once. Yeah. Like,
he would have
probably traded their offensive line to get Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
A lot.
And for the Rams, talking about young quarterbacks, this is a good sign for them because Jared Goff, he didn't start the season last year. There was questions of, he didn't show great signs in his first year in the league last year, but opens up the season against the Colts, 306 yards, a part of a dominant performance. Confidence is key. You even know this is a fighter and high-level athlete. Confidence is key, and that's a good start to the season for them. Now, in another big game, the Packers had the Seahawks in, and they win 17-9 on 311 yards from throwing from Aaron Rodgers, another 21 running. But the story of the game is gonna be the Packers defense, which in the Aaron Rodgers era has usually been not too good. And they shut down the Seahawks offense, only giving up Wilson passing yards 158 yards, no touchdowns, and one fumble. I mean, big start to the season for the Packers, and a tough loss early on for the Seahawks.
Yeah, that game started off very slow. Both teams, it seemed like they weren't in sync until the Packers picked it up later on. I think it was late third, fourth. I don't know. It wasn't very entertaining to start.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the unfortunate thing now in the NFL. They won't do more preseason games, which is completely fair. You know, these guys don't want to have to do preseason games. They don't like it anyway. They want the season to start as is. But they do what they have to protect their players because they have to keep them healthy. But there's less pads being worn. There's less heavy-duty practices going on. The guys, like I mentioned, the Giants, the stars only playing twice a week. So now you go into the season, and it's like 3 to 6 games into the season. You're still gelling. You're still trying to mesh with guys. So you have these sloppy games going on, and you know that's the unfortunate thing of the last 3 years. You just have these sloppy first week games, and teams really don't show themselves sometimes until later in the season. I think that's why sometimes you're having teams that get hot late, and maybe they'll be a 9-7 team or a 10-win team, and maybe not a top team, but they'll still do well because they finally gelled late, despite their record showing and making you think they're not as good as they really are.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially if you're not practicing, like you said, as often. You're not being in pads, and football's already a tough sport, so these guys do need, that time to heal. But that game pace is different, and once you always notice how some college players need a little time to adjust because that speed is so much faster. Same thing, I'm assuming. They got to take a couple of weeks. It's unfortunate for the fans, like you said. It's going to be a week or two, maybe 3, for a good team to kind of gel together. Mm-hmm. A bad team might take the entire season or 2. But
the Jets will gel around week 16. They'll have a chance maybe then. That'll be a good game for them. Now, not me.
Yeah, they can bond over champagne watching the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing for rookies, like you mentioned, coming to the league. Like, if you're not getting enough practice time, and that speed adjustment. So if you have a key rookie in your team, like on your team, like a quarterback or a tight end, like the Giants, it's gonna take them time to maybe even really show something to you and the fans. It's unfortunate. I mean, the Giants it's 19-3 with under a minute to go in the game. They're gonna have a terrible loss to this, so they're gonna lose this game. But and the last little thing we want to talk about around the league is the Lions beat the Cardinals, 2 teams that are probably likely playoff contenders fighting for playoff spots, division leaders. The Lions beat the Cardinals 35-23. 292 yards and 4 touchdowns for the new richest player in the NFL, Matthew Stafford. I don't know how he's the richest because he certainly ain't the best. And Golden Tate has 107 yards receiving. Miles Killebrew with a pick 6. I don't know what to think of the Cardinals anymore. I mean, they're good, but they haven't had like a legit franchise guy since Jake Plummer. Now, I know they had, Kurt Warner and they went to Super Bowl, but Kurt Warner was like a Band-Aid for 2 years and it worked out for them. Now it's it. Like, they haven't had a franchise guy since Plummer, and they've had wasted years of really good defenses on the likes of old Carson Palmer. And it's just like, if you're a Cardinals fan, yeah, you're excited for good seasons because you've had so many bad, but you can't believe you're really going to contend with the likes of Carson Palmer as your damn quarterback in this 2017.
Yeah, the Lions are the same thing. It's like they mirror each other, except that the Lions have I want to say, top 10 quarterback in Stafford.
Yeah,
puts up big numbers.
I think he's a top 10. He's good. I mean, he was great with Calvin Johnson, and he was good last year with Golden Tate and no Calvin Johnson. So I guess he's probably he's a top 10 guy.
Like, they'll put up points.
Yeah,
but they just never do enough.
Yeah.
It's like the pressure situation is here. You got 30 seconds left. I need something to happen, and no.
Yeah, no.
It seems like that every year for them. They get so close, and nope, we're just not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, so, all right, moving on to some baseball talk. We'll just get through baseball talk, and then we'll move on to some UFC 215 coverage, which was last night. But for the Yankees, interesting development over the weekend. Aroldis Chapman gets his first save on Saturday since August 15th when he was just in a rut, that one of his worst ruts and runs and slumps of his career. Since giving up 2 runs to Boston on the 18th of August, he's only given up 1 run in 6 appearances. Betances has been a so-so closer since he's taken over the job from Chapman. I mean, I argued and debated with Jose before this that you can't bench Aroldis Chapman. You know, he's making tons of money. It's the first year of a brand new contract with the Yankees. It's a tough thing. You got to worry about the mental state. But in the end, it looks like Joe Girardi may have made the right decision, and it didn't really cost him because he probably pushed Chapman back, gave him a little mental break. He's probably maybe getting himself together. He's a veteran. He's one of the better closers of the last decade. And Betances has faltered enough that you can give the job back to Aroldis Chapman, and all is good. He's better. He's got his mind right. And you go into the playoffs or maybe that first-round playoff game with the guy that you really need and should be the closer.
Oh, definitely. And the fans aren't going to bat an eye if it does happen.
Yeah.
Like, Chapman is expected to be the closer, and he's expected to go out there, throw that heat, sit people down, and do his job.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right. There's enough time where he can get himself back together and get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, and another interesting story from during the week was this fiasco between the Yankees and Red Sox, a sign-stealing argument between them. Now, the Yankees supposedly went to the MLB and submitted a claim that the Red Sox were stealing signs using Apple Watches, which, again, I didn't even know those still existed. I thought they were gone. I thought the Apple Watches failed so miserably they were discontinued, but clearly someone still has them.
And a lot of people are buying them, man.
Really?
Yeah. Working in the tech industry, there's a lot of watches. I'm wearing a fancy smartwatch now, too. It's not Apple.
Really? Wow.
You know,
look at that. We got a fancy host on here. Look at
no,
that.
I'm not that kind of rich. Like, I can't do that Apple stuff. But,
But yeah,
they're getting.
Yeah, so they use the Apple Watches and they have like a staff member, I believe it's like a coach in the bullpen. They're sending messages to players, or I guess they wear them and getting signs. And then in perfect Red Sox-Yankees rivalry nonsense, when the MLB goes to the Red Sox and go, hey guys, we looked at the replays here and the Yankees' claim seems to be right. The Red Sox response is, well, you know what? They're cheating too. They're using their television cameras and watching us too. We know it, so they're just as bad as us. Like, what is that? Like, you got caught, and your response is, instead of going, all right, we'll stop. It's not illegal. It's not illegal to steal signs. It's just frowned upon. All right, we'll stop. Well, they're doing it too, so we'll talk to them. Like, what?
Yeah, they draw the line at you can't use technology. You know,
Yeah.
If your player's on second base, old baseball days, you look at, see the signs, that's fine. Fancy way to relay it back, figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, once you start using technology, that's where they're like, no, that's a boo-boo. We don't do that here.
And that's the crazy thing. Like, there won't be any major, suspensions or major fines, because this is a thing that's been going back 100+ years in the sport. It's just one of those weird things. Like, but everybody's doing it, especially nowadays with the technology. I was reading the article talking about it, and they were saying the one player they talked to anonymously, he was saying that this has been going on since the instant replay came back in. You can really look at things much quicker and read things, and the technology is so fast to get messages across. Back in the day, you had to have someone sitting in a corner and making a sign to one guy, telling another guy, or like, Boston looking through the scoreboard, all these kind of weird things. Now the technology, you just get instant information of people and steal signs. So, I mean, it's probably a bunch of to do about nothing, but it's just funny.
Yeah.
And I heard one analyst talking about it, getting interviewed, and he made a great point. This rivalry has been kind of meh for like the last 5-6 years. It hasn't had any of the cachet used to. Maybe this helped start it up again. Maybe it gets interesting again.
I think the problem with rivalries in all sports nowadays, they all like each other.
Yes.
They all, they're gonna go play.
Yep.
They're gonna play their game and then go hang out at the bar.
Yeah.
Growing up, you really felt like these guys did not like each other simply because, hey, this guy plays for this team.
Yep.
As soon as you become a Yankee, you hate the Red Sox. Vice versa. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Now it's like, okay, we get to first base and we're gonna hug it out. Like, no, I want to, like,
give each other a dirty look or something. I don't want to be friends.
Like,
it's
do
crazy
that
because
away from the cameras. I don't want to see that.
What's changed also too is that it's free agency. Because there's so much player movement being in free agency or trades. There isn't the same kind of loyalty to your franchise Now it's loyalty to your players, like each other. You're all out there to get paid. You're all out there to get money. You're hoping for the new contract with the TV network so you can all make money. And that's what it's become. Everybody's working out together in the summer. And like a perfect example is, and me and Jose were talking about a few weeks ago when the trade was made, the trade that's still in limbo with the Celtics and the Cavs, sending Irving to the Celtics and Isaiah Thomas and some other good players to the Cavs. And like, they're not in the same division, but they're clear major conference rivals. And they're one of the better rivals, or at least good team versus good team in the East. That's, tantamount to the Bulls and the Knicks making a trade, like sending Scottie Pippen to the Knicks for like John Starks, Anthony Mason, and Oakley or something. Like that would have never happened because there was just so much more loyalty. The rivalries were strong. They'd be like, no way we're going to help out the Bulls, even if it means getting what we want. We're not going to help them, or we're not going to help the Knicks.
We got to send it all the way across to the west side if we're going to make a trade. Like, it's not going to be within the East where I may have to face him in the to get to the finals. Like, that's not happening.
Yep.
Like you said, that's not the case in point anymore. It's all about the money.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and but moving on to the Mets. The Mets are playing out the string, so to speak. They had a 4-game winning streak, and I didn't see the results for today's game because I just could care less about them right now. But I mean, other things going on with the Mets now. One of the big stories going on this week was rumors of the Mets possibly cutting payroll. Now, I'm sure a lot of Mets fans are upset by that notion, like, oh, cutting payroll. Wait a minute, why are you going backwards? I thought you had the money. Now, again, it's not great. Now, the payroll this season was $155 million, which is nothing to sneeze at. Now, what we have to remember, of course, they're not spending like they used to. They lost a ton of money in the Bernie Madoff scheme, so I'm still recovering from that. But we have to factor in as Mets fans out there, Asdrubal Cabrera is going to be gone, $8 million off the cap. Neil Walker got traded. He's going to be gone. $14 million. Granderson's $11 million. And then Jay Bruce is $12.5 million. So that's still a lot of money. They still have to fill the position. I mean, for example, Cabrera's position is already filled. They got Amer Rosario, one of the top prospect, if not the number one prospect all of baseball. He's already up playing, looking good. You're going to have Dominic Cruz playing. Dominic Cruz. We're going to get to UFC, but Dominic Smith playing first base, another top prospect. And they got other guys like Brandon Nimmo and Gavin Cicchini. So they have top prospects that can fill some of this. So they still can, and they're going to get guys healthy. They still can, while not spending more than 155, still bring in very good players and make this a good team again, next year. So it's not reason to freak out. If all of a sudden they have a $90 million payroll, then you can be pissed. But if they have $140 million and they still bring in some really good players like Mike Moustakas and some other guys, I'm not going to be too mad. In the end, they need the pitchers, the young pitchers, to do well. And if the young pitchers don't do well and Familia don't do well, they're probably not going to go anywhere anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, the Mets seem to be in limbo.
Yeah.
They're not exactly a bad team.
Yeah.
They put together good streaks. Exactly. They should be better than they are right now. They're just not showing it. So cutting a couple of millions off the payroll for the next season to try to lure some big names or some solid names, I don't think it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, Mets fans are so used to things going south that kind of quick to freak out. Like, oh my God, they're going to cut payroll and everybody's gone. Like, no, let's give them a break. It's going to be okay. You guys have enough young talent right now on your team at a relatively cheap cost.
Cheap. Yeah.
That you have a good 4 years where you can, I don't want to say rebuild because that's not the right term, but you can cut costs, get rid of some old contracts, some, $8-9 million contracts for guys that aren't producing, bring in new guys, maybe a little cheaper, and still content.
And the thing that's frustrating for any Mets fan is you see the team across town, and they're even when they're supposed to cut payroll, they still don't. They end up getting people they want. They always make trades. They always make moves. So it's always frustrating. But for the smart Mets fans, they've already come to terms with what this kind of team is, and they understand. It's just this New York. Everybody freaks out from anything. But speaking of youth and pitching that needs to make big moves and contribute for the future if they're going to be far. Matt Harvey had his second start since his long deal stint again. I mean, a little bit better than the last one. 5 innings, 2 runs against Cincinnati. Now, the scary thing is he hit 94 on the radar gun, which is great. Recovering from multiple injuries, shoulder, elbow. You want to see that the speed is great. But only 2 swing and miss pitches in 74 pitches. That's not a good sign. This is a guy who he was ahead of his age when he first came up. He could put the ball wherever he wanted, and he had good mix of pitches. So at this point, it seems like he can just throw hard, and that's just about it. Because if you're not getting swing and misses, that does not spell good. It makes you get the sense, okay, yeah, he gave 2 runs in 5 innings because he probably got lucky more than anything.
Yeah, especially with major league talent, if these guys are putting the bat on the ball, eventually they're just gonna start leaving the park.
Yep.
Two swing, two swing and misses. That's exactly right. That's a bad ratio. You're gonna run into teams like, for example, run into a team like the Cleveland Indians where all of them hit, and you're gonna have a bad night.
Yeah. I mean, and then going from the young players to the old players and trying to free up cap space, this guy would free up a lot of cap space if he just retired. But unfortunately, David Wright, despite going in to have rotator cuff surgery, he's already had the spinal stenosis issue. His neck's been an issue. All signs point to say, okay, David, career's over. You made a lot of money. It's time to retire. He still says he's optimistic about playing next season. But first, he says he'll see how my body responds to the surgery, and we'll kind of go from there. I mean, I've talked about it on the show multiple times. I'm ready for him to retire, and especially if he retires, that's another $20 million you get in cap space for a position that, for a guy who hasn't played. So they've already moved in a direction of addressing third base. It's not like he was a key contributor this year. Like, okay, where do you go from here? Like, you lost 25 home runs and 80 RBIs. Yeah, no, you paid $20 million for nothing. So they could easily use that money in a Robinson Cano trade or package some guys and get a Giancarlo Stanton. Any of these really good players they can use. But he being so adamant about playing again, it really puts them in a quandary because they're still paying $20 million to a guy who, if he can even get back, he's like a utility guy at this point.
Yeah, it's sad to think that David Wright a couple of years ago was the face of the Mets franchise. Yeah. Kind of like Captain America,
Yeah.
You see him on the field, and it's this good, wholesome guy. And the quote itself, see how my body responds to the surgery? That there alone tells you, like, it should be time for you to call it quits. Like, you've had so many surgeries, and in places where it's scary to have surgery.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about your neck,
Yep.
your back, it's time to go.
And the spinal stenosis, this I think is going to be with him the rest of his life. Like, I don't get, like, I get the passion. And I'm sure part of him as a high level athlete, as a competitor, he wants to finish on his own terms, but like your body's telling you it's not likely. So you're just dragging it out. And I guess again, players are loyal to players. I'm sure he's the guy that is loyal to the franchise. Like, you're really going to help out the franchise. They're going to give you a job somewhere if you want it. Like, he hasn't played in 14 months. He's going to add like another 6 that's going to be on 20 months. We're going into spring training next year before he's even played in MLB. I mean, that's bad. You have not played the highest level in 20 months. It's over, but I mean, it's a story we've talked about ad nauseum on the show. Let's move on to something I'm excited to talk about with you about. It's UFC 215 was Saturday night, last night for us, but a couple nights ago for when you're listening to this. Let's go through the main card fights now. First one is a fun one to talk about, and I'm curious to get your opinion on it. You've been in a cage, you understand the fight game, how you're fighting people. Gilbert Melendez survives a damaged leg. It wasn't his knee. I mean, it was more his calf. I put knee in the script, but it's more his calf. Like, dangerous, bad knee. I mean, kicks to his leg from Jeremy Steven. Jeremy Steven wins, but he guts down. It fights all 3 rounds. I mean, what did you think about him surviving and just get, like, his leg was screaming at him, it's over, and he still finished the fight. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Gilbert is one of those guys that he's gutsy, man. It's all hard at that point. You know you're hurt. Your opponent knows you're hurt. That's the worst part, when your opponent knows you're hurt. Yeah. And they're going to attack you and pressure. But I just wish he checked the kick. Like, check the kick.
How simple is it to check a kick? Because it seems like, is it a hard thing to do? Is it simple if you know the technique and you got a lot of repetitions? Like, explain it, because it seems like a lot of guys do not do it.
Well, from my knowledge, it's going to come down to what's your game plan. Gilbert, it's from what I saw, relies heavier on his boxing.
Yeah, big time.
So if you're going to be heavy on that front foot, it's going to take you a lot more time to actually check the kick. And checking kicks hurts. It's not exactly fun to, put your go shin to shin.
Yeah.
It's not fun to begin with. But some guys, it's just not their style. They'll think they can take a leg kick, come overhand right to defend. And as you've seen often, time and time again, man, one good leg kick to the back of your leg or your knee gives out, like you're not fighting. It's gonna be a bad night. But Gilbert's style is boxing heavy. Boxers don't really practice check and kick, so I don't see too many. Look at the Diaz brothers.
Yeah, it's a camp-wide issue. They're all the same camp.
They don't check kicks, and they're not. I don't think they're going to. It's just that's what they do.
And what's interesting, it happened in this fight. I saw it happen in a couple other fights, even the main event, and I've seen it a lot in general. And they brought it up in the broadcast. I think it even happened with when Mark Jacasey had his fight. You see a lot of fighters now going to these calf kicks. Like, they're not going so much to the quad anymore, even the knee. A lot of kicks to the calf, and it seems to be a trend that's really growing because it looks like it's very effective. And you see what happened to Gilbert. You didn't have to go for his knee or his big muscular quad. If you can develop that technique to kick to the calf, man, it could be devastating. Like, what have you had to deal with, like, calf kicks and done it yourself? Like, why is that maybe a more interesting and better and strategically smarter approach than maybe kicking to the quads?
Well, the benefit of kicking the calf is the quad is such a bigger muscle; it can take more damage. And if the guy, as you go for the calf, he lifts his leg a little higher, now you can also kick the other leg out, get him down to the fight, which we did see in one of the later fights.
Oh yeah, Neil Magny against
he got
Dos
kicked.
Anjos. Yeah, and that was big.
Yeah, that changed the entire fight as soon as he hit the ground. So it's also a timing thing. You don't really have to kick as high. The calf is right there. It can be a quick kick to the calf. I personally haven't been a big fan of it. I haven't really tried it, given it its due. So I have to go check that out. I'm gonna write that down in my notes and see if I can go kick some people in the calf.
Oh, I feel so happy for those people.
Yeah, see how that goes.
No, workman-like win for Lear Latifi versus Tyson Pedro. Tyson Pedro is a really high-level top prospect at 205 weight class, enough so that Daniel Cormier noted in the broadcast that he had him on his radar as a possible opponent down the line. That shows that's a heck of a compliment if the former 205 champion has you on his radar. But Latifi wins, mostly grind him out. A lot of wrestling. He's a good wrestler. He's a hulking figure. I mean, nothing overly exciting, but like a nice workman, hard-working, grinding out performance by Lear Latifi. And a win he really kind of needed.
Yeah, he did a great job of cutting Tyson's length. Like, if you notice, Tyson is a big, tall guy, had a long reach advantage. I think it was like 5-6 inches on him. So Latifi just kept getting inside, taking him down, chopping that big tree down. So it was actually impressive on Latifi's part, in my opinion, how often he was able to get inside. Maybe I think he just beat Tyson to his game plan. He didn't let him settle down. He was always in his face. So, like you said, Workman's life was very a continuous attack. Nothing exciting. Yeah, if casual fans will probably watch that, I'm like, wouldn't watch it again. But
it's hard work in there. I mean, you can speak to how hard grappling is. I mean, that's a hard, really well-earned victory, especially for a guy like Tyson. That's a big boy in there. I mean, I'm sure. What do you think? He's probably rehydrating to 220, 225 in that kind of fight?
Easily, man. Like, easily. Those big boys put on weight fast.
Yeah, I mean, now moving on to the next fight, which to me, he won performance bonus, and the most impressive performance of the night. Stunning, not surprising, but just really stunning in that Henry Cejudo beats Wilson Hayes, finishes him. I think he got him in the second round early. Finished him faster than a lot of other talented guys, including the champion did. I mean, Cejudo, they made it great observations and points on the broadcast. It was Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan, making the point that he's still a work in progress. I mean, this guy hasn't been wrestling. He even noted himself in the post fight. He's only been fighting for 4 years. He's a guy that's jumped ahead quicker, because he is so talented, is so gifted as a gold medalist in wrestling. His striking was fantastic. Like, you saw a bit of his continued evolution and growth versus Benavidez, but Benavidez is so much further down the road. He's had so much more experience, worked with the likes of Dwayne Ludwig, so he outstruck Cejudo in that fight. But he goes in there with haste, and he just he looked like Henry Garbrandt in that fight against Wilson Hayes, and he looked phenomenal. I love the rights to the overhand right, well not overhand, but overhand right to the body, working the body combination. I mean, he looked amazing. What do you think of Henry Cejudo?
Confidence. Watching him going when you are confident in there to just throw that left straight into the body, no fear. That's when you know things are clicking.
Yeah.
And when he sat down, that punch that set him down, that straight right hand, you saw him turn the corner, sit on his punch, and just let it go right down the pipe. He just looks more confident. It shows he's a high level wrestler.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to focus solely on his wrestling anymore. So I think he's spending more time developing his overall game, worrying about the striker, and that's when you're a gold medalist in wrestling. You don't worry about people trying to wrestle you.
Yeah, I mean, and they noticed it right away, and I did too, and I thought it was kind of weird, and they cleared it up in the post fight interview. He was in a karate style stance, and they even made the point of that. And then they talked about later that he actually did work with Lyoto Machida leading up to this camp, and that's even further more fascinating because for the people that karate, or even the people that are boxing fans, you stand in a kind of like sideways stance, smaller target to work with. It helps your punches, but you don't want to do that in MMA because it hurts your grappling. People can get in and get on in your legs quicker. You can't sprawl and put up that frame against them. But you just mentioned expertly that he doesn't have to. He's not worried about anybody taking him down, so he can stand in that stance if he's comfortable and not worry about takedowns and just unload like a fantastic striking and just look phenomenal in there. And that was a nice little wrinkle that I did not expect, and looked like Wilson Hayes did not expect that stance and how good it would be at all.
He did not expect that right hand for sure. That was crisp straight down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see him. He sounded very confident in the post-fight news conference. He was saying he feels he's the guy to beat Demetrius Johnson. I don't know if he's the guy to beat him, but the thing I'm hoping is Demetrius gets his defense. He finally maybe makes the move up, or at least to, a super fight at 135 against whoever's champion at that time. And maybe it opens door, because I can see Henry Cejudo, even though he's 30 and that's not good at lower weight classes. Perfect example, we saw a man who was 30 in Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez lose the same night and get knocked out in boxing, who was like a pound-for-pound guy. So the smaller weight class is always tough on guys that are getting older. But I can see Henry Cejudo be the heir apparent. Like, if Demetrius moved up, Henry Cejudo is the guy who takes over the division and owns it for a while. But I don't know if he's the guy to beat DJ. Do you feel he's jumped forward enough to be able to beat a guy like DJ, or everybody still leaps and bounds behind this guy?
It's a little tough to say in the striking department, because Wilson Hayes, in my opinion, wasn't this stellar striker.
Very true.
He throws a lot of overhands. He sits heavy on his punches. Cejudo, to his credit, looked amazing. He did his job, but I would like to see him with more of a striker and try to outstrike a striker. DJ submitted the black belt. So that, in my opinion, DJ
He's just ridiculous.
Is head and shoulders above the division. But I think DJ just needs to open his mouth a little more, man.
Yeah.
Like, have a personality. Like, just say something. People are tired of the cookie cutter responses of like, oh, I'm just here to do my job. Yeah, that's cool, but it's still entertainment. People want to be entertained. If you're already great at fighting, you're pound for pound the best. John Jones, in my opinion, is pound for pound. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I agree. And I agree. I mean, but you bring up a great point for Cejudo in terms of he still needs a striker test, and he may very well get that, because after his win, Sergio Pettis told him, "I'm your Huckleberry," and said he would like to fight him next, and that would be a great kind of continued rise for Cejudo back to the top, and another big testament, because Sergio Pettis is a very good striker. He's a guy that can outpoint your striking. He's not a risky brawl. He's not Jeremy Stevens. He's very smart, very technical like his brother. But it's also a great test for Sergio Pettis in kind. Can Henry Cejudo stand up with a high-level striker in that weight class and prove he really has come along? And can Sergio prove that he's a better takedown defense fighter than his brother, and show that he is a completely all-around, fighter? And it's a great fight, because it really is. It could be the heir apparent or the next great threat to Demetrius. So if that fight happens, I think it solidified who is the second best flyweight in the world, whoever wins that fight.
I mean, I'll give you, if Cejudo wins, that he will be the second best. I think he would have the accolades to do so, but I'm not sold on Pettis. I still
Really?
think
Even after his last win?
no, I think Borg would be. I think Borg takes Pettis.
Really? All right, fair enough. Now, moving on to our next fight, we mentioned a little bit earlier when Lewis noted the picking up your leg and getting your back leg kicked out, because that was the story of Neil Magny versus Rafael Dos Anjos. I was really interested in this fight because I wanted to see how Dos Anjos, making the move up to 155, which he noted in his post-fight that it was really getting hard for him. I didn't realize it was, and it was a move to 170, which I thought was silly, was actually better for his health, and he looked thick and strong at 170. He beats Neil Magny, and he goes with those big legs. He kicks him. He gets the back leg, and that just shows you how tough it is. That a little, like barely even a mistake, just a slight foot placement, and can change things. And that's what Rafael Dos Anjos needed. He gets Magny to the floor relatively quickly, and it's pretty much academic from there. The guy completely controlled him, even though Neil Magny's good off the ground, can get back to his feet, can handle himself there. Completely controlled, had nowhere to go. This guy slices around, gets through him, and eventually he gives up his arm, his head and shoulder. He gets the head and shoulder choke, gets the submission in the first round. I was disappointed. I wanted to see those two stand and see how Dos Anjos handled the bigger guy, because he's still eventually going to get a bigger man test at that division.
Oh, definitely. I think Dos Anjos is one of those guys that would benefit from an 165-pound division.
Yeah.
He's kind of an in-betweener. Little too big to keep going down to 155. He has too much muscle mass to fight at 155. That cut, it just looks agonizing.
Yeah.
But then he gives up so much height going up to 170, like the reach advantage. He reminds me of Big Rig. Once Big Rig started fighting these really longer guys, like you see the problems he ran into, and I see the same for Dos Anjos. Now, mind you, Dos Anjos gets you to the ground, you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
He's heavy. You saw it in the Magny fight. It's consistent pressure, and that consistent pressure is what led to that head and arm triangle. It's like it was just nonstop. I think he was on him for about a minute, and it was constant movement, constant work. That's tough at that high level. Usually, you see guys try to hold on for a couple of seconds, then move. He was just consistently moving, hitting. So he's a scary dude.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have forgotten, because he's become such a good striker with the help of Rafael Cordillero, whose camp he left, which I was surprised about. But he was a jiu-jitsu guy when he first got into the UFC. That was his game, and that's why he was kind of middle of the road. He hadn't developed a striking game, and people forgot this guy's a dangerous striker. That's why I think a lot of people thought he would have a good chance against Conor if they fought for that title. What's interesting is that people have asked him, would he be interested in fighting Tyron Woodley? He's, quote, to one writer, MMA writer, said was, I will make him fight. What do you think his chances would be in a possible Tyron Woodley fight at 170?
That's tough to say. Because Woodley, I think, would dictate what happens in the fight. If Woodley chooses to go in there and bang, I think Woodley can outmuscle him. I don't think Woodley would have to worry about being taken down. He proved it against Maia, which was a disappointing fight for me to watch. Maia did what he was expected to do. Woodley was outstriking him, didn't finish the job. But to answer your point, I think Woodley takes it just being the bigger, more aggressive striker. I don't think Dos Anjos can take down Woodley. So Woodley's just going to have that in his back pocket. Dos Anjos is not going to be able to take me down. He may not be strong enough to sit Woodley down either with a punch. So I think Woodley will be able to kind of walk him down.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I'm hoping if that fight were to happen, Woodley does retain, because good Lord, just think of this. And it was a great point made on Twitter. I think it was like Mike Chiappetta, writer for MMA Junkie, I believe. He made the point, imagine if Dos Anjos wins. There's this guy that has won the 145 and 155 title that'd be very interested all of a sudden at fighting 170, and he could win that fight. And imagine how difficult it would be to live with Conor McGregor if he was a 3-division champion. Oh, please, Tyron, please don't let that happen. Retain your title if that fight ever comes
I
along.
mean,
But
as much as I hate how much Connor talks,
yeah.
I also love how much he talks because he's laid out the blueprint. You
Yeah.
know, the fighters are what people go see, not the UFC has done a great job of marketing UFC, and I hate watching, for example, ESPN, and it's like, yeah, the UFC fight. Like, no, it's an MMA fight. It's
Yeah.
not a UFC fight. It's a UFC event. Grinds my gears, but whatever. Connor has put it on the map, and he's shown if people want to see you lose, they'll still pay to see
Yep.
you lose.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, as long as people are paying to watch you, you win.
And
Like,
that's a blueprint he's stolen from the likes of Floyd Mayweather,
of
Muhammad Ali, and
course,
even Ric Flair. Ric Flair,
it's
you
been
want
there.
you
People
want to
just
see you
don't do
lose
it.
or you win, and it'll bring them in. I mean, um, but I mean, we know we're getting close on time. Let's move on to the main event now. Valentina Shevchenko loses to Amanda Nunes in a decision in the bantamweight women's title fight. What were your thoughts on that fight? Who did you have as the winner in that fight?
So I rewatched the fight. Um, I wasn't mad at the decision, to be honest. I thought Miss Bullet took it,
Yeah.
but I can see why they gave it to Nunez.
Yeah. I mean,
Reason being,
I felt the same. Like I thought Valentina won, but again, like just you said it perfectly, and I agree with you totally. Like I wasn't like mad, like I wasn't shocked or anything like that. I didn't think it was robbery, like some people on Twitter were trying to say. I don't think it was
Yeah.
that, but it was weird. Like I think Valentina made a great point in the post fight saying that what was the damage that Nunes did to her. Nunes did a lot of kicks, which is fair. You got to score kicks. The weird thing is, even though she got the takedown the fifth was a weird round to me because for all intents and purposes, I thought Shevchenko won the round. She even got the judo throw, but it worked out for Nunes in that she was in the right place. And when they hit the mat, she was able to get her back. And then even when she got the takedown later, Nunes did nothing with it. Like Valentina Shevchenko even threw punches from the bottom. So that was one of those weird rounds where a person got a takedown. I didn't score the takedown high because she didn't do too much with it.
yeah, that's the problem with takedowns. They're scored in such a way
Yeah.
that people think just because you got taken down,
Yeah.
that the other person is doing a tremendous amount of damage, and it's not the case. I think what hurt Valentina, honestly, is she fought the entire fight with her back against the cage.
Yeah. Yep.
Nunez
Right.
seemed to be controlling the center, and just from the outside looking in, it just looked like she was pressuring her at all times. But Valentina's a counter striker. You know, that's what she does.
Yeah.
She's waiting for you to overextend, and boom, she's gonna hit you with a 3-4 piece combo. And a lot of judges, from what I've noticed, especially in MMA, don't reward counter striking.
Yes.
Like they like the aggressors. They like people going out. The numbers show that Valentina outstruck Nunez, by 104 to 85. But Nunez was the one pressuring the entire time. She held the center down. I want to say 75% of the time.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's weird how they score striking. I mean, score in general. I mean, wrestling. I did an article for MMA Suck about how they scored things, and they don't score defense to me enough. Like, okay, yeah, you got taken down, but if you stopped 3 takedowns before that, that's a lot of hard work and a lot of technique and a lot of effort. And Shevchenko shut down a couple takedowns before that. Got up both times. Like that needs to be scored too. That's hard work. You shouldn't be able to just take a person down, hold them there, throw some slight punches, just keep them there and stop them from standing you back up. But I mean, I thought also for Valentina, I thought she had a good chance in terms of winning in the scoring because to me, she landed a lot more of the significant, obvious strikes to the head. And that's not saying that matters more, but that's just how they score more. And kicking doesn't get scored enough. So I was surprised that Nunez still got the decision despite having a heavy kick, kind of game. It's just so weird how MMA judges score in different places, in different times, in different hours. Sometimes it's so weird, and I'm sure you've had to deal with yourself, like very weird scoring, and even your fights that you just didn't understand.
Yeah, we can do an entire episode on just what's wrong with judging in combat sports. It doesn't make any sense, the system that they're using. But Valentina, like, I watched the fight, I slowed it down, and yeah, in my eyes, she won. Every time Nunez would throw 2 or 3 punches, Valentina countered cleanly. And it wasn't just she was throwing punches; she was landing at a 48% clip. That's a high percentage as a counterpuncher. But the judges don't like that. The judges want to see you be aggressive, and I feel for her because she that was her game plan and she stuck to it and it worked out in my opinion, but she wasn't rewarded. So that division is in flux because who's next? Who do you throw to Amanda?
Yeah, I don't know. Tate's retired. Rousey's gone. Shevchenko, and that's what's so fortunate for Shevchenko. I mean, she's not going to get another chance anytime soon. Like, because the Edmonton fans ridiculously were booing, but it sent a message that, you know, meathead fans and even if the promoters are going to hear, oh, they weren't interested, so we're not going to do it. It wasn't Lawler McDonald, so we're not going to do it. There wasn't bloodletting, and the dumb fans are booing for no good reason. So she's not going to get an immediate rematch, despite maybe having won the fight. So she's stuck for a while. I mean, Juliana Pena lost to Shevchenko, so she got knocked down a peg. You know, there's no one in the pipeline, so it's a weird. Holly Holmes left the division. She's, you know, trying to get the 145 title, and she might fight Cyborg. You know, Jermaine Dayrondami, maybe that's what it is. She comes back to 135 and maybe has a case. You know, that's about it. But it's a
but you can't sell her.
Yeah, especially
you know,
after
she
refused
to fight Cyborg, and now she's coming back to 35. It's a tough situation. It's like, how do you sell that? Yeah. Like, fans remember that.
And an interesting thing I noticed, too, in our last little bit, talking about UFC 215, when they were interviewing Alir Latifi, I was surprised. They panned the crowd, and they were surprising a lot of empty seats for a stop in Edmonton, which does not get a lot of UFC shows. And also funny was Dana White did not go to the event. I mean, everybody can look into that on a lot of levels. Oh, it was the Demetrius Johnson or didn't like Amanda Nunes. I just think he didn't want to be seen at an event that wasn't a sellout-looking spectacular. And that was interesting. And that's an unfortunate indictment on one DJ who was, I've mentioned this to my co-host on Fight Strength Podcast, one of maybe the most underappreciated fighter in all of MMA, and even Shevchenko Nunes, they are not really drawing anybody. It's not their fault. They're great fighters. You look at the promotion, they don't get promoted, and that's what you get. Even in Edmonton, not sold out UFC event with pretty good fighters on it. That's what do you think about that? That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's twofold. Like, I didn't see a commercial for this.
Yeah.
At all. Like, if you weren't a hardcore fan, you had no idea this was going on. Yeah. And it's also, I want to say, the UFC throwing their stars under the bus. Like, Dana throwing Nunes under the bus for her pulling out of the last fight. Always talking, man, I have some very, very, I feel for DJ because he's been getting shafted continuously by the UFC, and he's been a company man, and he's getting no love. He's getting no push from the UFC. Yes, part of it is him, and he has to open his mouth. He has to have some type of character, show people that he's a human being, you know? Like, give us something to root for outside of, yes, you're a great fighter, but the casual fans need more than that. He doesn't do it. He doesn't care to do it. I mean, so it's tough to sell that.
The fight fell through. Ray Borg got sick or whatever. He couldn't do the fight. It didn't happen. But leading up to, you had a guy who's gonna go down as one of the very best ever, current pound for pound guy, making history. He was going to break the legend Anderson Silva's defense of a title streak. Like, that isn't easy sell. That should have been sold down people's store. History. What sports fan isn't interested in that hook? Especially you have other good fights. You got Gilbert Melendez, you got Jeremy Stevens, you got, you know, all these solid fights, and then you have a co-main event of a title fight with two of the best 135 women fighters on the planet. Like, that should be easy to sell, and you should show it. But you said it best. Like, there just was no kind of push for that, and that just showed. It makes me think, like, Demetrius even said in comments after his whole Dana White beef, like, they've given up on him. Even if he's making history, they don't care. But I'm telling you, if McGregor or even Anderson Silva was in that spot, they'd be shoving it down people's throats. You'd see it on MTV and NBC and everywhere, and ESPN getting advertised. And this was like a completely non-existent pay-per-view. It's unfortunate.
Of course, like, Connor's going to come back, and if Nate decides that he wants another payday, they'll do Connor Nate 3, and it's going to be everywhere. And it's unfortunate because it's going to be a fight that means nothing. Yeah. Like, at all. But you have DJ fighting for history, and I'm telling you, I did not see a commercial for it. Nothing. Not even online. Not. you know how they're spying us on the internet. I didn't see no alerts about UFC
Yeah.
at all, and so I was like, they don't care. They're not trying to push it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand their angle at this point, the UFC, like
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's let's just wrap it up now. That's pretty much it for the show. Now, Louis, do you wanna plug anything for the fans listening in the New York area? Your Twitter, the Facebook, Instagram, anything you want to let people know that are listening to they can follow you and follow your career?
Guys, follow the story. Instagram, the LG23. Facebook, you can look up the assassin, Luis Gonzalez. Bantamweight divisions. I am coming back. I've been sleeping. I've been getting better. The doctor said I'm coming back.
All
Just
right.
nice little reminder for you.
All right, you heard it here. Now that is it for our show. Louis, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I am Jason Burgos. He is Luis Gonzalez, up and coming superstar fighter. See you next time. See you next Monday, everybody. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.